All right. There he is. How you doing, my friend? You doing good?
I'm doing well. I spent a few days in Orlando. Got to check out the Disney theme parks, which I hadn't done in a long time. So that was cool. That a friend of mine got his friends and family together for a weekend up there, and yeah, came back a little under the weather, but just you muscle through that. And
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. What'd you think of the Pro Day?
yeah, I was actually checking in on Cam Ward's throws, all the video from the line at at one of the rides over there. So that kept me consumed with the wait when you're in those long lines at the theme parks. But yeah, I mean, I think he did what you could do at a pro day, which it's not like that's ever going to surpass the importance of what he did on film and what he actually produced in his college career, especially this last season at Miami, which elevated him to that top quarterback talk, and then eventually this number one pick that everyone seems to almost unanimously believe that's what he should be. And he showed off his arm. He showed off his arm talent, the throws. He made them, connected with his receivers. So from that perspective, then he checked that off the list. That's all it was. It was check it off the list. He's already done the other stuff that should get him up there. And then I like that he showed a little bit of his attitude and his moxie when, of course, the big thing was how he went over to the Titans brass and told them, I'm solidifying it, that he should be the number one pick. I like that. I like that out of him.
Yeah. For me, I'm just hoping that Damian Martinez maybe becomes a Dolphin. I think Jalen Rivers could be an option for Miami since he plays tackle and guard, and he's a good player, and he'll probably be in the middle rounds somewhere, probably third round, fourth round, something like that. I looked at it from more of the Dolphin perspective of it. That there's a couple of guys there that could be picks for Miami. So the way I looked at it more on the Pro Day was more about guys that could be interesting for the Miami Dolphins, like a Damian Martinez or a Jalen Rivers. That's the way I kind of looked at it, because the Cam Ward stuff is, yeah, it's fun, but it has nothing to do with the Dolphins.
Yeah, for sure. So, Damian Martinez, I would love him as a power back. Now, the Dolphins did sign Alexander Madison, who you believe that they have a short yardage role for him.
Yeah.
But obviously, you could always bring in competition. And then, hey, even the year that the Dolphins brought in Sony Michel as a veteran, then he ended up not making the team. So you could always just bring in more competition, and then you let them duke it out for the roster spot and for that role. And even Jalen Wright, obviously, we expect him to contribute in year two as he gets deeper into the playbook and can now become more entrenched in this offense after the Dolphins did trade into the fourth round. They didn't even have a fourth round pick last year. That they actually used this year's third round pick on him. So in reality, he is a third rounder from that line of thinking. So you got to figure he's going to get a role. Jalen Rivers, I would also love. Just because of his versatility and just the lineman he has shown he can be, and that he will be available in those mid to late rounds. You never know once you start getting deeper into the draft. Some guys that you think are middle round draft picks, they could fall, and then hey, if he's right there for you in your lap, especially if it's day 3 and he's sticking around, then go for it. I would love to see the Miami kid come through. And then even a Xavier Restrepo, which, the Dolphins did bring in Malik Washington last year, but now Braxton Berrios is gone. So you did have 2 of those slot receiver types. So you could still try to engage in some competition. But I know he's got a lot of places he could probably go. I know you're shaking your head, and
because they got the other kid, the Einheim kid, or whatever the hell his name is, the tall kid. They got him and Malik. Those are your slot guys, dude. You're done with slot. You're not.
Oh well, yeah, but Nick Westbrook, Akine, then I mean, you're going to use him differently since he's got the size. You use him as more of a possession receiver, but Xavier Restrepo, even though he didn't, that 40 time was concerning, and his straight line speed obviously isn't what people want. And he released the tweet saying he felt a little tightness in I think it was his hamstring. He said that didn't let him open up on his stride as much. We've seen him do it, live in games,
He's a
and
quick
that's
guy.
the guy you want to go
He's a
down.
quick guy in
Yeah,
space. He's not a speed guy. He's
exactly.
not gonna outrun anybody. He's a route runner. So he'll be fine. He'll
Yeah,
compete. His real problem is that he's not a special teamer. And so he's not going to be a top 3 receiver in any NFL team. So he's going to be battling for the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th spots on a wide receiver team. And if you're one of those, then you need to be a gunner, a returner. You need to do something on special teams. He does not excel on special teams. And so that's a problem for him. That's going to also hurt him in the draft. We talked about this a couple days ago after he ran the 4.8 and everybody's freaking about the 4.8. And I'm trying to tell people it's really not about the 4.8. He'll be fine as a route runner. His problem is that if he's just a limited receiver and he's not really a dynamic, big time receiver, then he needs to be a two-way player and he has to help you in other areas. And that's where he doesn't help you. And especially at 4.8, you're not going to have him covering kicks.
yeah. As a gunner, you need that straight line speed because that's like the play where you are doing that the most. Like in practices, when guys are being tracked for their miles per hour, their speed as they're running in practice, the ones who pick up the most are actually the gunners, more so than even the fastest skill players, because they're the ones that can pick up that much speed over the course of just running in a straight line for that long. So
Well,
you do need
people
that.
were freaking out that he gained weight from the combine till now. And why do you and this is a reason why I told people I think he gained weight because he knows he has to play special teams. And wherever he gets drafted or picked or whatever, he's going to have to, from that second on, they're going to try him on special teams because since he's going to be a back end receiver, they need to know that he can do something else. As you know, dude, you cover the league. When you're a back end receiver or running back or tight end or offensive lineman,
Yeah.
well, maybe not anymore, but all those positions, you got to have you got to be good at something else.
Oh yeah. 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 Any backup player in the NFL pretty much has to be able to contribute on special teams. Maybe there's some lineman who's just like an emergency player, and you have a better group of linemen that you could have on field goal protection and things like that. That he might be listed when you look at the box score in the end as a DMP. But everyone else, you got to be able to contribute because you're not going to be active on game day if you're not doing special teams. That special teams coordinator has a lot of say in who makes the roster and who is active on game days, because if you're taking up one of those 47 or 48 spots on game day, or 53 on the roster, you need to be able to contribute something. Now, what does give me some hope with Xavier Restrepo is that going back to, I covered him when he was in high school, at different high schools, at Monarch, at Deerfield Beach, St. Thomas Aquinas, and he was a two-way player who also was a DB for large parts of his high school career. So he's got some background in also playing on defense, making tackles. So as far as getting down there, and he could go make a tackle as a wide receiver more so than maybe most who have probably just been wide receiver stars their whole career and just we're always solidified and now have to make it in the league as sort of a rotational backup receiver.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. It's just to me, that's kind of the way I looked at it for the pro day. And again, I don't really care what happened on pro day anyway. I've seen enough of Damian Martinez. I've seen enough of Jalen Rivers to say, those are guys that I would take a flyer on. Restrepo is not a guy, not with Malik here, who's a better player than he is actually, better athlete. And a very, very good football player, by the way. Malik is also a very good football player. But then the Icon kid, they got now. Will the head coach actually use him? That's a whole other, completely different case there. But overall, what are you looking at now? How are you looking at this Dolphin draft now? Still looking at guard or defensive tackle?
Yeah, I mean, I would love one of those top guys, top linemen who are probably a tackle in the long run, but can start off at guard just because that's where the immediate need is. I think just get those best linemen in the building. We know Greer will like to go best player available, so I think if one of those. I'm looking at three in particular. I look at Armand Membu from Missouri, who now has kind of skyrocketed a little bit, which has me concerned. He actually will be out of reach for the Dolphins.
That's my guy. That's the guy I want.
Yeah, it would be
That's
nice.
the guy I want.
It would be nice, but now I think the combine he had, excelling, just showing how athletic he is, which would be so incredible in the outside zone scheme. I think
what did he do at the combine? Because I don't really care, so I don't even know what he did at the combine. What did he do at the combine? Why is it so? What the hell can a lineman do at the combine?
Well, I got to look up the numbers again, but just he definitely excelled in all the on-field drills, and I mean that's kind of
40 and the 40, the bench press, all that crap. He did well.
Right. Showing the speed in the 40, but then also his 10-yard start was 10-yard split, which is what kind of they go by more with linemen.
Watch his ass maul people on film.
Oh yeah,
what you need to
do. Well, we know he does that too. That's the thing. So
that's what you got to watch, bro.
Yeah.
49140. No wonder.
Here we go. I'm pulling up. 491 in the 40, which is great for a lineman when you're sub 5, and 174 10-yard split. I know we're splitting hairs, and I'm more like you. Like I prefer to see them play on the football field than basically run track, especially as a lineman. But ever since the combine, that's kind of what has boosted him into now. Okay, no longer thinking mid to late first round. Like now he's in possibly the top 10 with the Dolphins picking 13. But also,
and he can move. So that's the thing. That's the thing about him. And in this line, in this scheme, you want a guy that can actually move. So I'm with you there. Yeah,
that's what he should prove, that he moves at 332 pounds. He moves well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The guy like Tyler Booker. Tyler Booker is actually like he's a mauler, but he's not he has to play in a phone booth. He probably doesn't fit what you do here. Like he's a good player, but in this scheme, Tyler Booker may not be a perfect fit. That's an example, in other words.
Right. That's why it was a little interesting when you first started seeing him in a mock draft and thinking, okay, well, yes, we know the Dolphins need a guard. That would be drafted by strictly just need, as opposed to would he truly be the best player available at that slot? And then I wouldn't think so. But then also just the scheme fit wouldn't exactly be there.
Not a scheme fit.
And then it was telling when I spoke to him at the combine, and then he mentioned he hadn't had any conversations with the Dolphins at all to that point. So when a lot of the other linemen that would make sense, like Membu, like Will Campbell from
that would be my second guy.
Yeah. Which
Will
now
Campbell would be my second guy there at that spot. Membu's my first, Campbell's my second. And again, nothing against Booker. If he lands in the right system, he might be just a terrific lineman for them. But in this scheme where you got to move around and pull, that's not what he does, dude. It's just not what he does. And if you take him and then force him to do that, that's your fault. Then that becomes your fault because now you're putting a player in a position to fail. And that's not his fault. You know what I'm saying? So, we'll see what happens. But I think they'll end up getting their guy. I think they'll end up getting either one of those guys, I think, at 13.
Either one of those or Kelvin Banks out of Texas, I would also like.
That would be my third option. Okay, I could go with that. I can lean on Banks as my third option. I like that.
If two are gone, then go for him. So I don't think you would need to reach the point of Tyler Booker if you go offensive lineman. But then you could also go cornerback with Will Johnson out of Michigan if he was there, and there's been a run on linemen. So, I think there's other ways you would go before you even think of Tyler Booker, which the mock draft seemed to have moved off of the Dolphins regarding him based on this line of thinking.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. All right. Looking at free agency, what are you hearing at all? Is there any movement going on? Because it seems like everything has shut down.
Yeah, I think now we reached the point in the offseason where You had that first wave of free agency. That was the first wave, right? We saw them all come in. It's the moves you saw made, and then I think now it's guys, teams getting out to pro days, starting to hone in on the draft. We're about to have the owners meetings start of next week, so all the teams, coaches, owners, a lot of the general managers will be in Palm Beach. Actually, it is this year. So Stephen Ross, so with the Dolphins, I think you usually have a big thing at his place with inviting all the Dolphins personnel that is at owners meetings, and so you have that. That's a big collection of sort of that transitions you from that first wave of free agency. We're going to have media availability, so we'll hear from Mike McDaniel first time he speaks about all the moves, and then I think you have a break from all of that. It's hone in on the draft for the month of April, as we're now within a month of it starting. And then after you see what you get in the draft, and then what you get in the undrafted department, you really fill in that roster. Then the months where you have the workouts and eventually OTAs, maybe you start to see what you still need, and maybe you get a veteran signing. Maybe someone like Calais Campbell isn't making a decision until those later months into the late spring, early
He ain't
summer.
coming back, bro.
Right, but I mean, I'm saying that's a type of like decision that is made. That might be like the biggest type of thing is like a Calais Campbell when he did come last year. Maybe he makes the decision whether it's to go to Baltimore, which we feel is the more likely scenario, or he retires, whatever.
In the building, they're not in the building. They're prepared for him not to come back here.
Right. You got to be. Yeah.
Teron
Armstead will make a decision at some point, which same way prepared for him to prepare like you're not going to have him.
So I've been saying that obviously because you're on a hot seat situation, which clearly they have to be on a hot seat, unfortunately. You're not going to get the pick of the litter. Free agents aren't going to sacrifice themselves to come here. They're not going to sacrifice their bodies. They're not going to take less money. None of that's going to happen. So, and you've seen the end result. You aren't really getting the top tier free agents, and you're signing a lot of guys to 1-year deals. There's not a lot of guarantees in years forward, all that kind of stuff. We saw Reggie McKenzie. He left, and he left for a job that was a lateral job or a lesser job almost. And now we see Kendall Lamb, a guy that is better than any swing tackle you have on the team right now. Okay, I'd rather have Kendall Lamb than anybody you have right now at swing tackle. And yet he signs with Philadelphia, the world champions, a hell of a roster, the best GM in the business. I think there's a little bit of a stank that's around the team right now that it's pretty obvious that some people don't want to stick it through, and some people aren't willing to sacrifice or stay. Even a Javon Holland, who probably knew he wanted to move on. I don't think he wanted to come back here. I think there's a turn of the page here. There's a lot more of people not wanting to be a part of this.
Yeah, well, and so is life when you have a downfall season like you just came off of. So no longer is it the building up of, okay, well, as you get deeper into Mike McDaniel's era, can he keep climb like the way it went from 9-8 to 11-6 in the second playoff year, and then all of a sudden now you see a year on the decline, and then it's not looking as bright. When you just end of the 2023 season, you were 3 games up with 5 weeks remaining in the AFC East, and you say, okay, well, if that team would have just finished that off, they look at everything they could accomplish. So it's no longer feeling that way, because then you're coming off a year where you weren't even in the AFC East contention, basically from the end of the third quarter of week 2 last year. You were already out of it, because that was when Tua got hurt and you were down 3 touchdowns against Buffalo at home. So it was clear from that point the Bills had the division. So yeah, it's a year where they're going to have to bounce back, and it's a hot seat season. And if it goes the same as last year, then yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that there is a new direction for the franchise, and you have to start brand new, because this era, which had so much expectations, when you built up a roster that's as talented on paper as you've had in multiple decades, and the most you got out of it is a couple of wild card road games in the playoffs that you lose, and you still don't get a playoff win. It'll be very disappointing.
Yep, I'm with you. By the way, Welt Rheaume, you will not be disappointed. Like a lot of our listeners over the last few years have called Welt Rheaume and have had a lot of success. Listeners in Orlando, out on the West Coast, here in South Florida, 954-966-4646. Remember, the consultation is completely free, so you can call Jeff or Dan at any time. Bankruptcy, homeowner property damage, condo damage, criminal defense, business owner claims, commercial litigation, personal injury. Call my guys. Go to the website, WRFLAlaw.com. Welt Rheaume, 954-966-4646. All right. Rumor has it, it's Cincinnati and Miami in Spain. Is that the truth? What do you know? What are you going to tell us?
I don't know if that's the truth. We don't know yet, but I mean that's certainly that would be a hot matchup to get Joe Burrow out there too. I mean I've also thought of Washington Commanders if it's because that's a home game for the Dolphins. If it's Jaden Daniels, Washington coming off the NFC Championship game appearance that they made. So yeah, those are two that I'm kind of looking at as matchups they would want to have in Spain, but. Actually, this is the first time I'm hearing of it. So, where were the rumors coming out on this?
I don't know. Where was that from? It was last week, right? That came out last week. Was somebody put out the rumor that it's Cincinnati, Miami in España. November 16. They even put out a date and everything. So I don't know if there's any truth to it. So that's why I wanted to ask you if you've heard anything on that, because that's actually like. We're actually giving Spain a decent game then. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. And I know in Spain, they've sort of narrowed down which date it could be. And that sounds like what they were kind of thinking. I remember from talking to some Dolphins podcasters in Spain, and they were mixing together quotes from political officials who had sort of hinted at it with certain answers, and then also the schedule, the soccer schedule over there for the stadium sort of indicated where they can narrow it down to that. So I think
apparently, by the way, it was the mayor of which town of Madrid accidentally leaked it.
Right. I think that's what I was hearing from those in Spain. Yeah, right. That when you combine it with the soccer schedule, then it's kind of like that's when how they can narrow it down. And then but as far as but did he mention Cincinnati?
Yeah, apparently he leaked it out.
Okay. Yeah.
He mentioned it. So yeah.
Wow.
And the date and everything. So it was that's where the rumor came out of, a leak from the mayor of Madrid. So, and he probably, out of all people, he might be one of the few people that actually really knows the date and what's going on. So, because
he would know.
Yeah, he would probably have to know, since his town has to get prepared for it. So, yeah, it's crazy shit. All right, what do you got going on in the Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Yeah, while I was away, there were a bunch of interviews with all the new free agents, so I'm catching up on those. I'm writing Fatu Melifonwu today, so I'll get something posted shortly here on him, and I still got to figure out what I'm going to write the rest of the week as I'm just getting back, but keep checking on sunsentinel.com. And then next week we get into owners meetings, so Mike McDaniel will speak for the first time since all these free agent signings.
Great. I can't wait to read your article. It'll say ahs, ahs. Lots of those. All right. Awesome.
I cleaned up the quotes there.
Yeah, just quote. Yeah, just you could put out the quotes already right now. Ahs, ahs, and that's it. And you're home free. All right. Follow him on Twitter at David Furones _ catches and ahs there at the South Florida Sun Sentinel. David, as always, thank you, my brother. We'll catch up on Friday.
Yes, sir.
You got it. There you go, David Furones with our Welt Rheaume P.A Dolphins report.